Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Edge podcast, your go-to source for hearing the stories and the why behind founders and business owners here in Greater Birmingham. I'm Dawn Gagye, and today we're talking to two amazing medical providers that prove there are places to receive healthcare from humans that listen, care, and help redefine your wellness journey. Are you finding that your traditional healthcare isn't cutting it anymore? You're not alone. In the bustling community of Birmingham, many of you, men and women at any age of adulthood, are seeking healthcare that doesn't just treat symptoms, but understands your whole self. Imagine having a healthcare journey that's as unique as you are. Our mission with this episode is to transform the way you look at a healthcare experience with integrative, personalized solutions that are both professional and genuinely caring. Throughout this episode, we'll explore how integrative medicine blends the best of conventional care with alternative therapies to empower you towards a healthier, more balanced life. And who wouldn't want that? So whether you're driving down I-65 here in Birmingham, Alabama, taking an evening stroll in your local neighborhood, or enjoying a quiet moment at home, thank you for letting us be part of your day with this podcast episode. Remember, your wellness matters. You matter. Let's get started.
Hey guys, I am so excited to be here at Davis Orthopedics, and we've got two amazing guests. A little than what we normally do. Usually have one guest, but we got a bonus guest this week. And I'm really excited to introduce you to them. We've got Matt Davis, MD, and Mari Handley, a functional nutritionist. And I'm super excited to let them introduce themselves. So Matt, why don't you start us?
Thank you. My name is Matt Davis. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. My practice is in Birmingham. And I think one of the more exciting things about the direction of my practice currently is I've really started to focus more on helping people address their total health and not just the orthopedic component that oftentimes brings people into my office.
And you said you're in the Graystone area too, right?
Okay. Yes, in the Graystone area of Birmingham.
I am Mari Handley, and I'm a functional nutritionist, and I'm an RBTI specialist. I'm able to see what's going on inside of the body, be able to know exactly what plan to be able to give somebody to help them to be able to move forward in their health and as a more natural direction and more integrated health.
Something that's really interesting to me is that you guys are kind of an unusual pairing in the medical world, and you're bridging some of that gap. Can you start us off, Mari, by explaining a little bit more about what inspired this?
Years ago, as I was starting into doing nutrition and realizing how my health was in the beginning, I had 4 kids that had PKU, so they can't have protein, and so a lot of weird things in our family. Realizing that we had this medical issue, that we needed the medical side of things, but then also bridging this gap of a more natural way of taking care of their bodies as well. And so that became this integration for me. And then Matt and I have known each other for many, many years with our kids. And so it just kind of became this natural thing that he beginning to do more integrated health. And it just kind of became this natural thing to help each other through this more natural direction and integrated health together.
Yeah, interesting. So, Matt, why don't you speak to that as well from the medical side and the MD side? What were you seeing that inspired you to consider this pairing?
So in most medicine now, there are not just specialists, but ultra specialists. And one of the challenges I think that we had created with that is that everyone has a very narrow view. It's super deep, but it's very narrow view of the problems that they're treating. And one of the fascinating things that I've seen in my own practice is that I take care of a lot of different kinds of patients. And I see a lot of kids and I see a lot of athletes. And they seem to heal better, recover faster, and go back to normal much more predictably than some of our older patients. And one of the major differences is that their nutrition generally is better and their bodies are functioning closer to their prime function. And I think as we age, a lot of those things decline. They don't work as efficiently or as thoroughly. And so I started trying to treat my regular patients like I treat my athletes, emphasizing the importance of sleep, emphasizing the importance of nutrition, emphasizing the value of supplements and helping them kind of edge back towards 100% faster and seeing that it actually works. And it's not just about doing the most advanced surgery or using the newest prescription, but like if we can support the body the way it's supposed to function, then it generally just works better. And so over the years, I've just kind of added layer upon layer upon layer of understanding and implementing some of these, I call them granola strategy. You know, they're a little bit off the beaten path, or they're things that traditional medicine just doesn't embrace or doesn't understand. And I've seen the value in it. And so it's just kind of naturally grown over the years.
I love that. I love the granola. Like there's that earthy, crunchy kind of language out there in the world. And we've also heard it called woo woo, but it's real. And I feel like this is the perfect pairing. I think what you're doing in your approach is wonderfully unconventional, but absolutely necessary for helping these people not only recover, but from longevity. And I know a lot of people have been focused on that in the health world recently too. So let's talk about when the right patients find you, what do they usually have in common?
Typically, they're working out more. They really want to be able to eat well and be able to function at a high level. They may not know all of the things to do. They just know that something's not right and they know they need something different. And so usually they're coming in a direction of, feel like my labs look normal. I feel like everything is functioning pretty decently, but then I still don't feel right. And so a lot of them may not know exactly what they need, but they know that they need something. And so typically they're wanting a change and they're wanting to make those changes in their body.
Interesting. So they're kind of taking a little more proactive.
Mm-hmm. And they know that the medical direction hasn't necessarily served them well because they're getting little pieces and fragmented care along the way.
And in what you see with your patients, what do you find is that common thing amongst them? Because I know with Mari, it sounds like they're getting labs back and they just don't feel good. So somebody comes to find you and expresses that. And then in the vein where their entry point is with you in your practice, what are you feeling is their common space?
So a lot of the first touch point that I have with most of my patients is in office. They've come in because they've been injured or something happened. They have a persistent lingering issue that just won't go away. But in the process of helping them identify that and come up with a plan, I will share with them these complementary strategies that, they've probably heard about. Everyone hears diet and exercise. Those are important. But what does that really mean? Like, it's not just a buzzword. It's like, what kind of diet? What should you be eating? What should you not be eating? What kind of exercise should you be doing? Who benefits from this style of exercise versus that style of exercise? And so I think it's really not just throwing out ideas, but digging down into implementation. This is how you do it. It's not just go do it. We're going to walk with you through this process until you get back to where you want to be.
I love that. So when you get to that point with your patients, where does Mari come into play in that perfect pairing? Is it you talk to her or you have them reach out to her? How does it work?
So sometimes the people that we see, they know they don't feel right. They know that they're struggling with something, but they don't know exactly what that is. And they may be on one end of the spectrum or the other. And sometimes that's the beauty of working with Mari, is that she can do things that I don't have the expertise or the background in. So I can't be an expert in everything. I don't try to be. So if there are things that Mari is better suited for, then I can steer a patient to, you probably are going to benefit from this type of care better, or this is someone that can help you investigate these things more thoroughly, because that's not my expertise. That's outside of my wheelhouse. But then there are a lot of people that we work side by side with. So yes, you need to have this kind of surgery, or you're dealing with this orthopedic problem. But if you address things in this way, that's just going to enhance your healing. You're going to get better faster or have a better end result, because we're not just focused on A, B, and C, but also X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said. And when we were first chatting about this episode and prepping, I thought it was unusual and extremely enticing. I was very curious to hear somebody, especially in your field, express not only curiosity about this kind of pairing and partnership and working alongside somebody because you know that you are very specialized in your field,
but that your patients truly do have this additional need, and making sure it was important to me to not just kick the can down the road and pass it off like a hot potato to somebody I didn't know, I didn't vet in a community that I was unfamiliar with. And that's really what led you to pairing up with Mari. You got a history of knowing each other on a personal level, your colleagues now in some way. And I feel like that's somewhat extraordinary and unusual, and it's going to really benefit your patients in the long term. What is that moment where someone's like, okay, I know that I'm not feeling great, and my doctors, my general practitioner, whoever is telling me all of these results are normal. What is the thing that finally pushes them over to say, I've had enough of this? What are they feeling? And I think you have this kind of ideal client in the female world I'd love to hear you speak to, and then we'll pass it off to you and have you talk about the male situation. But there's a situation that arises with your ideal patient that causes them to say, I can't do this. I still don't feel right. Can you talk to that a little bit and what that might look like in your ideal client? I think you named Sophia.
Should be a mom or maybe have 2 or 3 kids, and she's just going throughout her day. She's going to the gym. She's working out. She's getting her coffee. She's headed home. She's changing her clothes. She's going to go with her friends, but she's just still feeling so tired. And she knows that she slept good, or she feels like she slept good. She knows that she's eating what she's supposed to be eating, but something's not right. She knows her hormones may be off, but she don't really understand that maybe. She knows that she really needs to be able to play with her kid and be able to enjoy her life, but then she can't because she still is just exhausted, and she feels just kind of like all over the place. Her brain fog's terrible, and she's just, I don't know what else to do. Like, I am just at my wit's end because I feel like I know I need some help somewhere.
And they want to function better within their world, right? So, and I think one of the other additional components of this profile, which you shared with me, was it's probably somebody in their 40s maybe, and they maybe experience perimenopause or menopausal symptoms. And that's a whole conversation for a different podcast, but those are real symptoms. And now we're learning this is actually normal, but there's something that you can do about it with these proper approaches like you have. And if you don't mind, can you debunk or deconstruct for us? You mentioned this RBTI diagnostic, and I think there's a Dutch test of some sort that you do. Can you talk about that in layperson's terms? So if a woman is like, wow, she just described me, what would you be doing with those tests? What are they, and how do you take them? What do they tell you? How is it different from a general practitioner?
So a RBTI is a urine and saliva test, and so you just go to the restroom. Super simple. And then we're able to see like how your digestion is working, if you're detoxing correctly, if your body is overwhelmed in any way, if any salt levels are too high, if your protein levels, if your kidneys and your liver are not doing their job correctly and metabolizing the proteins that you're eating and the foods that you're eating, then all of those things are going to be out of whack, and you're just going to feel completely inflamed. You're going to feel bloated. You're going to feel almost crazy. Like you feel like we just feel sometimes like we just can't function anymore. We don't know exactly why we can't. And so everything's just going to feel really off. And so being able to do this, we're able to see what things are off. And it's a little bit different than labs. Labs are great to be able to know exactly what's happening right that second. But this is able to see what you've done the last 24 hours of your day. Typically, a lab, you're going to go and, like they may say, drink plenty of water before you come, so you won't be dehydrated. This, you're doing your normal. But we're going to see if you're dehydrated and whether your minerals are where they're supposed to be. And if you're dehydrated and you don't have any minerals, then I'll feel really easy. And so we don't want to feel that way. And so we're going to be able to see all of those things with this. The Dutch test is looking at how your hormones are actually metabolizing throughout your body as well. So what they're actually physically doing. There again, we can take labs and see how they look and if they're high or they're low, but a Dutch test shows us exactly what your body is doing with those hormones. Is it using them the way they're supposed to be used? Or are they actually doing anything in your body at all? Or if they're not doing anything, period, and you're now in menopause.
Just a lot of whack.
Totally crazy.
Okay, so that's helpful context. So I feel like anyone can relate to like Sophia and universe of women.
Yeah.
Tell me more. So there's a male version that you have also shared with me. I think you called him Asher.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't mind talking a little bit more to the typical male that can best get the results that they want through your practice, and then maybe where that aligns with this joint initiative that you guys are doing this integrated way. So I think you described Asher as somebody in his 40s, always been fit, worked out, might have started testosterone, but not really well monitored testosterone. I think that was the description. Married with several kids and has built a business, a pretty successful business, and all of a sudden hits this wall or maybe gets injured. Tell me how you would walk us through that being your perfect patient and how you would work with them.
Well, so one of the first things that I like to do with any of my patients is try to identify what their goals are. Because again, I take care of people that come from every walk of life. I take care of construction workers and professional athletes and accountants and anything. And so if I understand what you're trying to accomplish, then I can better steer you in the direction of, okay, the best way to get there. And if it's a 45-year-old business owner who is struggling with poor energy and hard to focus and just not feeling as enthusiastic and ambitious as he did 10 or 15 years ago, or just chronically stressed because of the demands of work and family and physical demands and all of that, then we can better understand what are the obstacles that are keeping you from accomplishing your goals. And sometimes those are physical things. Sometimes those are hormonal things. Sometimes those are nutritional things. So as we kind of understand the patient more and what led them to this point, then we can come up with a more precise plan, not just a generic, generalized, one-size-fits-all approach.
Did I understand this correctly? And please correct me if I'm wrong. Like you're going to be able to start doing infusion treatments or something like infusions?
Yeah, that's one of the complementary tools that we have added to our practice. A lot of patients that have to undergo surgery, that's a stressful experience. Going into it, if we can better prepare people for that, then they tend to do better. Lower infection rates, less pain, easier recovery. On the backside, the effects of anesthesia on your body can be hard to deal with. Nausea, brain fog, just feeling blah for 2 or 3 days. And we have identified different things that we can do to provide either beforehand to help prepare them for the surgery or afterwards to help detoxify and get rid of some of this garbage that's in your body. And it just makes the whole process go smoother. They feel better, they bounce back quicker, they feel like themselves sooner. And so we initially started doing that for our surgical patients, and they responded very well. And then slowly we've expanded that to offer it for more and more different scenarios, so even non-surgical patients. I take care of a lot of people that work for the school district, and they don't want to get sick. And so we can do things to help boost their immunity, whether that's an infusion or getting them on supplements or whatever. I do think that, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we can do some simple things to make your body perform better, then you can tolerate the stresses of surgery or the stresses of work or the stresses of daily life without the impact.
And who wouldn't want that? I've definitely had a couple of surgeries in my time. And even if you're not getting the negative like nausea or anything, you feel good, but your brain is like, I'll see you in two days. Like I'm not going to be fully operating. Your operating system is offline.
And I think for a long time, people just accepted that as that's just part of it. Like you just have to get through it. But if there are things we can do to eliminate that in 12 hours instead of 48, isn't that worthwhile? Isn't that helpful?
I think it's also very helpful to have these kind of ideal patients in mind for our listeners, because I know that this will land with them. Like somebody out there is going to hear this say, that is totally me. Now I know who I can go to. And it is going to be all under one roof, correct? Like, so when people come in for these services, is it all going to be here at this location where you are? Or is there some different ways of how they're going to receive their care?
Everything's pretty much here. Now, hours are different depending on, who you're seeing. We have had some things where we make sure we're here together. Most of the time, it just depends on who you're seeing and what's needed at that moment. And there are a couple of outside sources that kind of have as partner ships kind of things like DEXA scans and things like that, but that would not fit here.
So DEXA scan is on my horizon. It was something because I'm coming creeping up on 50 and my doctor's like, have you had a DEXA scan yet? Like I knew what he was talking about. No clue. I didn't know any of those things. You ask me about hormones right now, I know things. Like I'm very well versed, understood, done my research. But can you tell us more about that? Because that seems like it's coming. It's in the jargon. It's out there. People are talking about it. But what is it?
There's really two different types of DEXA scans. What most people mean when they refer to it is a bone density test, essentially. So it's almost like an X-ray. You lay on the table, the machine takes a bunch of pictures. Usually it's of your spine and your hip. Sometimes they'll include a few other body parts, but those are the standard. And then based on those pictures, they can calculate some measurements and they can tell you essentially if you have normal bone density for your age or whether or not it's lower than it should be. And there are percentages that they will assign you to, and you're either normal or osteopenia, which means lower than normal, but not terrible, or osteoporosis, which is very low and puts you at increased risk of fractures. That's ultimately why we care about bone density, is it increases your risk of having a fracture. There are other DEXA scans that some facilities will do that give you more of a total body composition. So with those, you can estimate or actually measure your lean body mass, your skeletal mass, your visceral fat, your water content. So you can get a very detailed outline of your overall body composition. And so if you say want to start exercising to add muscle, you could repeat a DEXA scan in 6 months and you could tell, did you actually gain muscle? Not just looking in the mirror or how your clothes fit, but you can measure it. And then because the weight on the scale just tells you your total body weight. That doesn't tell you what you have. So if you lose 5 pounds of fat and gain 5 pounds of muscle, you're healthier. Even if your weight didn't change, you're healthier. And so that information is useful if you have certain health goals.
Now, is a DEXA scan something that is just for somebody in their midlife, or is it an anytime thing? Tell me a little bit more. Should a 20-something be asking about a DEXA scan, or is it really 40 to 50s?
I mean, if you have health concerns, then it's a great test because it gives you information that you can then act on. I think one of the challenging things that I struggle with in my practice is that I do take insurance for a lot of the care that I provide. And insurance kind of has a script that they follow. And so when you're this age, we will pay for a DEXA scan and we will pay for it this frequently. And so there are some kind of guidelines that we follow based on insurance, but that's not the end all be all. There's lots of things that we might recommend or think are very valuable that are outside of what insurance might typically cover or the frequency that insurance might recommend. And so if a 25-year-old has problems and they're worried about their bone health, then getting a DEXA scan is a very affordable, and it's concrete numbers. You're not just dealing with ideas, you actually have numbers that you can track over time.
I can appreciate as a marketer having real data. I don't just live in it, I can interpret it and then build a story to it to help inform whoever needs that information. I have this experience with some of my clients occasionally where it's like, well, how often are you checking your numbers on anything in the marketing world? And they'll say, oh, we do it one time a year at tax time. And I'm like, this is a prescribed thing. You want to be checking it with regularity so you can determine if there's any discrepancies or what feels off, much like you guys. I'm definitely not in the medical world, but I can appreciate that information is powerful. And I think the same thing probably happens with you when you get those results from an RBTI or a Dutch or any of the other assessment tools that you have. It's going to inform how decisions are made moving forward about that particular patient, but you're also empowering them. It sounds like you're empowering your patients with this knowledge to be proactive in the decisions they make with you rather than you guys just telling them and giving a directive. It's not just collaborative between the two of you, but also with your patients in a way.
Let's run with this. So fictitious patient. If any of you have ever watched Sex in the City, you know Carrie. She lives in her Manolos and her Jimmy Choos, and she spent probably $60,000 on shoes. They're all heels. She regrets the day she has to walk around in flats. She does not like a flat world. And in the reboot called And Just Like That, where we fast forwarded across 20 years, they're all older, Carrie develops this issue with her hip, which I think would be a perfect person to come into your office. She has disposable income. She's accumulated wealth. She has the lifestyle that feels like very much Sophia would have. No kids, obviously,
Yes.
but the rest of it. And she like is literally crawling up the stairs in one scene because she is hurting so bad. And she's got this mental state of mind like, I'm getting older. I can't believe I'm having hip problems. I'm too young for this. And I cannot wear my high heels. This is ridiculous. So her friend gets her an appointment with a doctor who basically says, he does an evaluation. I think he does like an x-ray and some other things, and says, Carrie, you had this congenital birth defect. This isn't an aging thing, but it's something we can fix with surgery. So if you could just speak to that, would that be something that you might see?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I see problems like that every single week.
Okay.
And sometimes knowing that it is congenital and not an age-related thing is like a get-out-of-jail-free card. Like, I'm not actually this old.
Yeah.
But even if you are, that doesn't have to mean that you can't do what you used to do. Like, I think we do accept this model of aging that says you're going to get stiff and you're going to get weak and you're going to not be able to do what you used to be able to do. And I think we have to fight against that, because I think that that's part of the problem, is that by accepting these limitations, we accept a lower quality of life and a more sedentary lifestyle. And I think in my world, what I see happen is the aging process is more connected to your activity level than how many times you've circled the sun. I have 80-year-old patients that run marathons. And it's not because I'm doing anything for them. They have just made an effort to stay active, and so they are active. And so I understand the scenario you've painted, but it doesn't matter whether it's congenital or degenerative. Yeah. We can still fix it so that you can be active.
And that's such a refreshing and inspiring perspective. We all know that we need to be active. And again, I think it goes to the point you brought up earlier, this discipline. Do you have the discipline to show up to do the thing over the long term on repeat that's going to help you proactively address these things, these health issues, or treating the health issues so that you can have longevity, you can have a better lifestyle, you can feel better at 80, even when you're approaching 50. My 50 mark is right around the corner, and I very much relate to Carrie. And I have had to take a break from heels. I've had the worst sciatica of my life, and I have to watch them sit in the closet right now. And I'm working with somebody in PT to help. I don't need surgery, but it's a real thing, and it does feel very defeating. I walk by those heels and I know they make my outfit look so much nicer than the flats that I had to wear. I did it today. I'm usually in a pair of Pradas every podcast, just so you guys know. And I don't get endorsed by Prada, although I wish I do. So if you want to send me some Prada, I'll take it. But I have a special pair of Prada heels that it's like my superhero cape. I put it on when I have a really big event or podcast. And I looked at them today and I'm like, sorry, girls, that's just not going to happen, because I just came out of a week of having horrible sciatica and I didn't sleep for 2 nights. And I know how to treat it now, but the PT's like, yeah, you're not back in that boat yet. We haven't attained that goal.
So Carrie's goal in that sequence of, and just like that, she literally went to her PT person and her surgeon and was like, I got to get back in my heel. That's my goal. And can you do it? So you're giving that perspective is great. It's helpful to know. And the other side of that is Carrie and all of her girlfriends are in this age where menopause is real. And as far as her recovery, I'm wondering how that complementary world that you guys are now pursuing as a team, what would that look like? So you had mentioned that there's some proactive things on the front side and the back side of the actual surgery that you can do to make that recovery and the kind of hangover from anesthesia a lot less. But if she happened to say, and outside of this hip thing, I'm totally not feeling the vibe right now. I'm not feeling myself, and I can't stay out all night with the girls like I used to. Are those days just gone? Would that be a signal to you? Or what other signals in your orbit that you would hear from a patient like that would say, I have this person, Mari, in my practice. She can help you with whatever it is that you need help with to resolve that.
So a lot of my training in orthopedics taught me how to think about the functional needs that people might have. So if you're going to be using a walker when you get over this surgery, we need to think about the living space that you're in and whether or not you're going to be able to navigate with that walker to get into the kitchen, to get into the bathroom, those sort of things. But what I think we haven't been taught to pay attention to are more of the metabolic and psychological stresses that people face. And I think that's where getting Mari's help with those sort of things is so helpful, because I could do the surgery, I can arrange for the physical therapy, I can get you all the equipment that you need. But if your nutrition is off, if you're not handling stress well, if your environment is full of toxins and mold and all these stresses that are making it hard for your body to recover from this surgery and making it hard for you to do the physical therapy, then the pace of your recovery is going to be negatively affected, because you don't have the capacity to deal with 97 things at once. And so if we can optimize some of these other things, then everything just works better.
Mary, what would you think in the Carrie Bradshaw patient case study we're talking about? What would that look like if that comes to you and says, Carrie seems to be exhibiting some of these things, or she's going to encounter this as part of recovery that's not considered? What might you recommend in her journey with you to complete her transformation on the road to recovery?
Well, we'd probably definitely start with doing a Dutch test, see where her hormones are, and then see where her urine and everything, pH and everything is. Then once we know what their hormones look like, then set them with plans, specifically what foods they need, what's going to be more specific for her body, because everybody's bodies are different. And if she's looking like she needs an antihistamine diet, or if she needs a more specific keto, or her liver's not getting rid of the protein like it needs to, then we may have to go a little bit of protein for a little bit.
Real quick, to talk to the stress point and make that connection to a diet, is that something that you can also help address?
Stress is huge. All of those emotions totally play into how your body is functioning on any given day. And so that's where, I would probably throw them back to Matt to do an IV therapy is like humongous when it comes to being able to help somebody's body to just calm down. And when things get out of whack and out of range all the way around, like your nervous system is really ramped up. And a lot of times your adrenals are really crazy, and that just causes more stress. So being able to bring that nervous system down, a lot of times the minerals are way off when that's happening. So being able to make sure that you're hydrating well, that you're getting the minerals you need, and the IVs are really good to be able to help get those minerals back into your body really quick and be able to bypass that digestive system and just go into the system the way it needs to and cells better. That's a huge way to help bring down some of that stress a little bit.
Tell me a little bit more. We have this fictitious Carrie, and they come back to you. So they've finished the surgery. They've successfully, through PT, back in the shoes, in the heels. Their success, and they're also leveled off, like emotionally and stress-wise. You've helped her with the complementary therapeutic approach with IVs, but also just making sure she's aware and mindful of, here's what your readings are like on these assessments, diagnostics. What do you call them?
Assessments.
Okay. And you've kind of been monitoring all the way along and helping her adjust, not just with IVs, but it sounds like diet. Do you do supplements as well?
I do supplements.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've taken her. What is she coming back to you guys and saying and raving about? If she were to leave a Google review, how would she describe what the process was like and how it made her feel?
And feel very relaxed and be super excited because she's feeling normal again. She's able to do the things that she wanted to do, to be able to not have those out of whack feelings of the ups and downs of the hormones, and everything's going to feel balanced, and she's going to feel very excited for that.
And I think for you too, I'd be curious, because I've never been a patient of yours, but what is the experience like? What is the feedback you hear from your patients when you get them to the other side of that surgery throughout their process? Do you get anything consistently that pops up from them?
Yeah, I think the two things that I've noticed hearing back from patients that stand out to me and make me proud of what we do are that we treat people like a person. So many people get treated like a number. There are big medical centers that have these experts, but you go in and it's like a cattle call. And you don't really know if they care about you. They're just doing the next thing. It's like a conveyor belt. And sometimes you don't feel like people are listening or that they don't really care about you as a person. And so I think that's one of the things that my staff are fantastic about. I'm in a solo practice, which is unusual in this climate, but I do that on purpose because it allows me the flexibility to take my time. I don't want to get in a rush. I cannot see 40 or 50 patients a day. I don't feel like I can give good care when I do that. So I think slowing down and listening to people, giving them individualized care makes a big difference. But also think that adding these other things that we do make the process less painful, goes faster, things are smoother. This isn't our first rodeo, so we know what is going to happen. And when we tell people what to expect, then it's not a surprise when it happens. And so they feel less volatile because they're not getting surprised by this new thing, because we already told them this is what's going to happen and then this. I think the communication in so many medical settings is so poor. It's just fire drill. We're going to deal with this, and then you're out the door, and then you're like, but wait a second, I had more questions, and you don't get those questions answered. And I think just anticipating those questions, helping people understand what the process is going to look like, just makes everything just go smoother.
I think that's a big differentiator. Putting my marketing hat on for a second, it's hard for a patient to discern who to go to. You obviously want the best, right? So showing and speaking out loud this demonstration during our conversation today has really helped me understand this is about personalized, customized, integrated care by two people who really are humans, and they not only care, but they're putting their best effort in on the daily with every single patient to provide what that specific person needs, not what everyone else tells them they need, or not, in some cases, like with the blood work, gaslighting them, like what really is normal, and I have plenty of stories just within my group of girlfriends. Just the other night, I went to dinner with a friend, and she is now on her 4th or 5th practitioner. And it's not because she's high maintenance. She's probably one of the most grounded, genuine, good humans that has just been upside down about, I still don't feel good. Something is not right, but you keep telling me my labs are normal. And she has to keep opening doors to find that person who's going to hear her out, really understand, like, I don't want to keep taking this thing, or why haven't I been given the advice to take this thing that seems like it might really help me, or stop taking the thing that has helped me. Her, she's miserable for 30 days. This seems like the alternative to having that experience and having a much better experience that is attentive, caring, professional expertise that, when put together, becomes this like dynamic duo of integrated healthcare, which is much needed. My husband's a Marine, and so we've navigated the VA system all too often, and it feels just like what you described about what you don't want. And they're doing the best they can. I'm not trying to like tear down an entire system because they're overwhelmed. It's clear like they're doing everything they can do to make sure you're covered, but to go deeper into those things, like the real world concerns we had after he had an incident before the holidays, and it was scary, and we didn't really know who to talk to or what questions to ask. And so I brought in a concierge medicine doctor to just be alongside us, like still deferring to VA for stuff, but having somebody who was available to text or call outside of 9 to 5 and say, this man can't sleep tonight because the way that he thinks is he's either going to be on Google or Chat GPT for the next 4 hours, or we resolve this in a 5-minute phone conversation or a text. It just changes our life, and people just don't seem to, or can't, because the way the traditional systems and the conventional systems are built can accommodate. That's not just my Marine, it's all of us. I really want to honor what you guys are doing. I'm so excited that you're collaborating in this way. So if people feel like I just got to reach out to these guys and get my care reassessed, or I want to make sure I get to talk to somebody, do they start with a consultation? Tell me the process.
For me, they'd start with a consultation, and we would just talk through those things that they're going through, have a little intake form, they fill that out, and we'll go through that together and see which direction is best.
And is this an in-person conversation they have with you?
It can be both. Okay. It can be either in person or Zoom or on the phone, whichever is more comfortable.
Do you still make house calls?
I do make house.
Okay, we buried the lead on this. I wasn't quite sure, but so Mari makes house calls, and it is amazing. And to your point as well, you get her and only her, and she does listen. You get the whole scoop and nothing but the scoop when you are talking with you during your consultation. It's great. And then Matt, how would they start and initiate reaching out to you?
So really, I have two kind of parallel paths that people typically take to where I'm helping them. The more traditional one is coming into the office. I have a physical office where I see patients and do evaluations. That's Davis Orthopedics. So you can go to the website and schedule online, or you can get the phone number, call the office, make an appointment, come in, we sit, talk, examine, figure out if this is a musculoskeletal problem. Then we start there and then proceed accordingly based on whatever's going on. I have a lot of clients now that are more interested in the kind of total health evaluation. And in an effort to make things easier and to reach more people that may not be in the Birmingham area, we offer a telehealth evaluation because a lot of those are more conversations. I don't need to put my hands on your knee or your ankle or your shoulder if we're talking about total health issues. So a lot of my clients in that arena will just schedule an online appointment, and then we will start off with a phone call, usually order labs, follow back up, go over those labs, and then from there come up with a plan of here are the issues that you're struggling with, here's what your labs look like, here's where we think we can really move the needle, and then start from there.
Now, are your labs done in-house here? And we're in the location. We're in your office today, just in case people are wondering, like, this is their space.
So we don't currently have that capability. We are actively working on it. So we have partnerships with some local labs where we can send people to get their lab work done, and then we get the results usually a few days later. But for convenience purposes, we are actively trying to get set up so we can I have a nurse that works full-time for me, and she can draw the lab work when people are in the office, and just to kind of expedite getting people the answers that they're looking for.
Excellent. So we're going to put your contact information in the show notes, which are on YouTube and Spotify. But you are also on a couple of social channels.
I have reluctantly started venturing into the social media realm. My presence on social media for the last decade has just been personal and for entertainment and educational purposes. But I recognize that it is a great way of reaching people. And I realize even for my own use, there's lots of information that I like to get from the people that I follow on social media. And it's great. And it teaches me things, or it piques my interest. And then I run down these rabbit holes and research topics. And I use what I learned both for myself, for my family, and for my patients. And so I realized that, okay, I'm not reaching as many people as I could because I'm not using these opportunities. And so I have been actively putting stuff out there on Facebook and on Instagram in an effort to educate people on here are ways that you can deal with these struggles. Here are tools that are available. Here are questions that you might have that are easy to answer, but in a more medical arena, because there's a lot of different people out there offering their opinions, and some of them are more informed than others. And so I just want to be a part of that conversation.
So I will put your channels, and you did provide them to me. Those will be available, and, like, follow, and subscribe. And then Mari, you're on all channels. You are super active on social media and full of wonderful information about things that people can absolutely relate to. So you are on Facebook, Instagram, and are either of you on YouTube at all yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a channel. Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. We really appreciate the time that you took today. And I am so honored to be one of the first people to help deliver this new initiative out and help it take flight. Anything else that you want to add that we didn't cover yet that you want them to know? If you had one line to share with people about this collaborative initiative that you guys have, what would it be?
The people that I see that are the most pleased, the most happy with what we can do for them are the ones that don't feel right. They're struggling. They've been to their regular doctor. They've gotten cursory lab work done, and they've almost kind of been dismissed. They try to do some things on their own with this supplement or this diet or this exercise, and it's not making things better. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to be stuck and just accept that this is the new normal. If you don't feel right, you should keep digging until you find some answers. And sometimes it takes a couple of layers of digging. You may not find it on the first pass, but that doesn't mean that you're making it up. It just means that you haven't found the answer yet.
It sounds like you guys are a resource that people can reach out to they're feeling these things, that even if you can't help them, I think that's also one of the beautiful things about you guys. You'll either tell them you can't help them, or you'll guide them to the next waypoint along the way if you can't. It sounds like you can help them most of the time.